The silence is so generous. It offers us everything and wants nothing. Unconditional offering, unconditional generosity. How rich we are. How we can overlook the incredible grace of what is constantly being offered in the here now presence that is infinite and eternal, unbounded and free. The silence is constantly offering us the grace of knowing our true nature as the silent, infinite being, in order that the life can be completely infused and saturated with the light of majestic silence. Underneath the play of the world, the silence tells us that what is moving and changing is not the truth of who we are. The stories that preoccupy us are not the truth of who we are. The drama and the addiction and desires are not the truth of who we are. And if we are constantly trying to fix what we are not, we will be using a lot of energy in an endeavor that will not bear fruit, while all the time the sweetness, the sukha of silence is here, freely given, the ultimate generosity, absolutely free to be taken in, the sweetness imbibed and transmuted through the system into a nectarine bliss nectar that in itself feeds and nourishes itself and deepens everything, deepens everything, the knowing of the consciousness of itself as pure awareness. It can seem so abstract when we feel to be a person and have this personal life and all of these happenings and seeming roles and responsibilities and things that we imagine are so important. It can seem so abstract to open to the possibility that what we are is silent being. And yet the truth is there's nothing abstract about the silent being. There's nothing abstract because we are that and we are made of that. And in a way, our mission in this human life is to discover and to bring that knowing, that pure knowledge, that silent, deep presence to be resident and here in all of the life. In a way, that is our mission, is to integrate through our lived experience and to bring the still, silent frequencies to the surface of life, to bring peace to the surface of life, to bring love and joy and awe and wonder to the surface of life, just by being it and living it. As we open to the silence, the stillness, and we receive the richness of our own true essence nature, that which is untouched, untainted, pristine. This frequency is an illuminating, all-embracing frequency that has the power to illuminate all of the reasons that we give ourselves to keep dividing in the life, to keep ourselves small, to keep ourselves limited. It's the great silence rooted in our knowing of what that really is that brings the power of the light and true love, which is a field of openness, to illuminate the guilt and the shame and the fear and the doubt that keeps wanting to pull us into protection and division and limitation. There's nothing we can do about the stories of limitation and division. We can't fix those. We can't do anything in a way in the relative play of the world or the material plane. We can't really do anything to fix or change that will have any deep and lasting effect. It's actually about not following the impulse to get involved in the drama, staying still, being still, discovering the truth that the heart knows, meeting everything in the light, in the love, meeting everything. This is where the tangles of our human lives are resolved. This is where the tangles of our human lives and the sometimes messy storylines are completed. We can be so pulled to the drama and the story and engagement, but the silence gives us all the clues. Be still, be here, receive, be nourished, be yourself, be free. And whilst it might seem abstract, the most incredible thing is the deeper that we come to know this true nature, the more practical, in a way, it reveals itself to be. Because it reveals what life really is and illuminates and frees us from the illusion of separation and the drama of division and limitation. Its practical application is to reveal reality and to give us a kind of frequency boost of courage that allows us to be real, to face everything, to not deny, to remain open when our hearts want to close. Mm. 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 The silence is so generous, a constant blessing, a constant invitation, constant deep nourishment. In a way, our greatest posture or mudra might be to relax and soften and just be here. Because in the resting, the silence makes itself known. We realize that silence is very far from the opposite of noise, because the silence is roaring. The silence is far from lacking. In its emptiness, it reveals fullness. It's as if the silence is constantly gathering us in the most intimate embrace, breathing life into us and whispering, "This is the truth of who you are. This, not the moving, changing landscape. Discover later what that's all about. But first know this truth of who you are. Open to the wisdom light. Open to the flow of divine intelligence. Open to the truth of who you are. And let the light and the love and the glory saturate every thread and fiber of your lived experience, of your human experience, until you realize what this life really is, and that it's not what you thought it was. That this life is a flow of grace and glory, and to rest in the love and the light that is discovered in the silent presence of being. We find the true landscape of reality within. We realize that nothing is ever about anything outside of us. It's always about bringing whatever feels to be stirring into the silence and allowing, waiting for the settling of the stirring, as if it's like a trigger or a charge, or a stirring is like turbulent water. It's like being in a boat on turbulent water, trying to settle things out, but it's just about, in a way, weathering the storm, weathering the patterns, just resting, knowing that the storm of the moving, changing will pass. The silence is always here, holding everything. It's to make our identity, our identification with the unmoving, unchanging. Receive the riches of the universe, the jewel, the pearl, the gold, the diamond, the absolute overflowing treasure box of the glory that is your heart, connected and resourced by the one heart. Because as we join in the one heart, we come to know that there is only love, and whatever is happening on the surface of life is to love. If we try to work it out with the mind, if we try to understand, we will go round and round in circles, and sometimes we will feel like we have made sense, but it will come around again until the frequency patterns that are discordant in our system, the vibrational patterns of discordance in our system, until they are transmuted, they will continue to create images of a life that is discordant or has discordant seeming happenings, right? So whatever we're holding within us, whatever we are holding within us that hasn't been resolved will create the image of the life. There's nothing outside of us. There's no power outside of us. It's realizing that we are one with the one power, and everything that is happening is being created. All discordance is being created out of the discordant patterns of our consciousness and our attachments and entanglement with karmic resonance. As long as we're entangled in karmic resonance, we will keep repeating the same patterns, and all that we are blind to will constantly be attempting to be revealed. We're being invited to let go of all of our identities, all of the things that we identify with, the roles, all of the things that make us feel important are usually things that are protecting us from knowing ourselves more deeply. Life is a jamboree of epic proportions. There is no doubt about that. And yet, if we allow ourselves to be without doubt about the truth of who we are, then we can live the jamboree with joy and grace and awe. We can receive and realize the blessing of it all, that everything is a gift, if we can receive it as such. And in a way, this is the glory and invitation that we are constantly being offered. How long will it take till we receive it, right? It's the most extraordinary invitation, and it's a constant offering to carry this invitation deeper, to explore deeper. And as we open to the finer frequencies of knowing the truth of who we are, we might be tempted or tested to be pulled back into discordant frequencies and storylines. The grace is to rest in the love. The grace is to rest in the frequency of God and glory, because the greatest offer to every being that has ever walked the stage of your life is not to get pulled into the entangled stories of discordance, family dramas, and all of that kind of alluring stuff that can appear on the horizon. But to rest in the frequency of love is the greatest offering that we can give the ones that we love and have loved. To rest in the frequency of God and glory, to meet underneath the play, to offer the resolution of your heart as a gift. To not need anyone to give you anything or be anything for you, but to let the resolution of your own heart be so deep that it becomes a gift to every being that is in the constellation of your human life. The ones that have gone, the ones that are still around you, it matters not. The frequency of your lived experience and the resolution of your heart touches all of them. It cancels out karmic debt. It cancels out the idea, all of the ideas that the mind can be holding of hard things that have happened to us, that we don't quite know how to resolve, or we don't quite know how to ever heal that. When we find the resolution truly in the heart, we heal it for everyone, because we see through the story and we meet in the depth of soul light with all of the companions that have joined our life trajectory. We meet in the light. We we meet in the glory. We meet in the grace, and we rest in this frequency as a gift to ourselves, but a gift to all. We join the great, glorious flow of abundance by being a frequency of blessing and gifting with love and light and honoring, right? Mm. Silence is so incredibly generous, such a blessing, an absolute open offering that is constantly inviting us into our depth, into our truth, into the fullness and blossoming. The silence is not inviting us to transcend and get away from our human life. It's not asking us to leave life behind, but to become such a profound frequency field of truth, love, light, that we infuse our life with the frequencies of love and light. We saturate the whole life, every fiber of our being, that allows rejuvenation on the physical level, deep, true healing, like transmutative, clear seeing on the level of the emotional and the mental. It shifts the perspective away from believing in the mind's intellect as a power to pure knowledge, awakens the intellect to the field of infinite potential and possibility, opens us to a field and flow of intelligence that is the true consciousness that we are. It brings us into the power and certainty of what we are in truth. It invites us to live in a completely different frequency dimension, the frequency dimension of reality. It's happening simultaneously to the frequency dimension of the collective consciousness in fear and distress and despair. But we have the possibility to be living almost as if in a parallel universe. But that parallel universe is absolutely an integrated human life being lived from the divine frequency. And then we are a beacon of light, of love. We bring the light of our knowledge, our pure wisdom light of our deep heart knowing to the surface of love, of life, as love. And we can be living in a completely different frequency. And then we see that there's no benefit to us making an allegiance with the frequency of fear and joining even the ones that we love at the frequency of fear. That our greatest gift is to resonate at the frequency of love and openness. We don't have to say anything to be profound. We don't have to say a word. We just emanate and resonate at the frequency of silent knowing. at the frequency of illumination, at the frequency that has the power to illuminate and illuminate in our own lived experience, so that we're constantly at our own evolutionary edge. It's like we're modeling through living an integrative life what it is to live with an open heart, guided only by the light of God and glory, listening only to the depth of silence, generosity, and receiving the frequency transmission of divine love. Wow, right? What a deep infusion life can be in every moment when we are open to receive the gifts and glory and grace that is constantly being offered to us. So then we join the Jamboree in celebration. We join the Jamboree of life in awe and wonder and delight, fully engaged, able to fully take part, to come alive on the surface of life as love. To realize that life is a constant invitation to come alive, to be alive, to fully live this life in a way to discover this truth and to embody this truth right on the surface of life, to come alive. And it matters not where you are in your life. It doesn't matter the age. It's to realize that none of that matters. Nothing matters but to be the fullness of life. And when we know life eternal, and we know life as light, as love, then we can come alive while we are being breathed in our human experience. We can rise out of the ashes of fear and doubt and lack, and we can allow this upwelling, this uprising to be a regenerative experience where we receive all of the gifts and we don't let anything sink the ship. We receive the gift so deeply that we come alive in our own heart. We come alive and we blossom and flower as love with our unique fragrance on the surface of life. And our frequency transmission is the offering that we have to give. And it brings us alive to be in the truth of that living experience, feeling aligned in the heart. We are supported. Grace flows, right? We realize the abundance and generosity of life. So to keep our allegiance with love, to keep our allegiance with silent being, to keep our allegiance with God and glory, and at the resonating at the frequency of deep absorption, deep relaxation, right? That we can be constantly in that mudra posture of relaxation. That's where that sound of comes from, right? It's like at the end of the exhale, the cosmic sigh that just looks upon it all and says, Nothing matters. Do I look bothered? Right. Just that deep cosmic sigh that settles into the silence, into the presence field, into the beingness of being that just knows and is so content and real, just resting within itself. And then to discover that this is not abstract. It's not inviting us out of life, it's inviting us fully into life. And yes, we have phases of the life where we're maybe feeling like we're more called into retreat or called deeper or quieter. But there are cycles, and we cycle. We're pulled in and we're pulled out, and we're pulled in and we're pulled out. Just like the in-breath and the out-breath, in-breath and the out-breath. Until, in a way, in the depth of relaxation, it's almost like the breath just becomes like a circle. It's not in and out. It's just circling. The circular nature of the breath is discovered to be the frequency of silence. As we truly drop into the silence, the breath will naturally become more shallow. And it's as if the attention goes away from the breath and the sense of an in-breath and an out-breath. We can always notice that between the breaths that there's a slight pause at the moment where the breath turns around. And where the breath turns around, we enter the infinite. If we retain the breath, either on the in or the out breath, or we create a lock on the out breath, too, we enter the infinite, but we don't have to put any force upon that. We can just notice it. It's a natural opening into the infinite between the breaths. If we just recognize the silence in that and the profundity, we open to the field of bliss. And in that, the body is nourished. The body is nourished by rejuvenation, bliss flow. Just to have an awareness of that opening to the infinite increases the flow of bliss. But as we sink deeper, it's as if the sense of being someone that is breathing enters this circling of the eternal nature. You cannot force it. You cannot make it an exercise. It comes from a depth of relaxation. In a way, the breath is freed. And yet, life continues. The cycling continues. Because it's not a pranayam, it's a wisdom. It's a wisdom frequency. It's the frequency of deep silent knowing. And it refines and refines and refines. Greater and greater stillness. There's so much that shifts in this unfolding. The only thing that is really a constant is the silence. And yet the silence has so many infinite layers of revelation. How generous. The posture of relaxation into the deep silence, surrendering into the silence, letting go into the silence, and letting the silent frequency, the frequency of openness, infuse the life, the body, all realms and dimensions with a deep relaxation, relaxation of the doer, a relaxation of the need to understand, a relaxation of the need to fix or change, a relaxation into God and glory, a relaxation of control and protection, a relaxation into love. And as the sense of the inhale and the exhale of life and the anticipation of time and space surrenders into the eternal flow of life, being life living itself, being a flow of consciousness, conscious and awake to itself, the cycling of the breath is the cycle of life. Circling, and the pause between, that slight pause between the in-breath and the out-breath, where the infinite is discovered. It's as if the infinite just takes over. The eternal takes over, and time and space collapse into a flow of life and being and grace and glory. And the heart already knows this. The wisdom already knows this. And in the silence, we access that wisdom light that illuminates and brings online a greater flow of the intelligence of our own consciousness that knows itself. And in that, we enliven and open the capacity of consciousness to be so much wider and more refined than we have been used to accessing. We start accessing more of our natural capacity. And none of this is abstract. This is what is happening in the field of intelligence. This is what is happening in our nervous systems and consciousness, that we are refining and deepening. And the silence is constantly inviting us into a more refined revelation of our own true nature, and inviting us to embody and live this on the surface of life, full engagement in life, full flowering, resourced from the fertile ground of our divine knowing, receiving the graced flow of abundance, that when we live fully aligned with the heart, truly aligned with the heart. And we free ourselves from karmic resonance, as in moving from conditioning and protections and shoulds and musts and have tos that are all tangled into karma. When we free ourselves and we live aligned with the heart, that we're fully supported and we can recognize the flow of grace, because we enter the true flow of life living itself. So we join the jamboree of life, renewed, refreshed, and joyous. Ready to adventure and explore, but living in the frequency dimension of reality and seeing without the filters of conditioning. And as those filters and protections fall away, we see more and more of the brilliance of reality. How beautiful. What incredible grace.